Some superheroes sometimes swipe right when they should have swiped left. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Join me as we count down another Top 10 most awkward superhero dates on this, our Part 2. Number 10. Cyclops and Emma Frost. Cyclops and Emma Frost are a couple that a lot of people love together and wholeheartedly ship. And you know what? I get why. Although when I started working here years ago, I myself was very pro Jean and Psych and anti Emma and Psych. Over time, I too have come around to 1. Loving Emma, and 2. Loving Scott and Emma together. However, that doesn't mean that when they got together following Jean's death and made out on her grave, it wasn't weird as all heck. Why was it weird? Well, because Jean had just died, and because up until this point, Cyclops and Emma's relationship was kind of in like a weird limbo period, and this was one of the things that cemented it, which feels really weird. However, Jean's Force Ghost, or rather Jean in astral form, had sent a message to Scott to give him her blessing for him to move on with Emma, you know, to live. Or I guess maybe it was Jean in the white hot room. Is that what that's called? The white hot room? I'm pretty sure. Hence why these two made out on Jean's grave and seemingly felt pretty fine about it. And sure, Jean may have also been fine with it as she did give her blessing, but that doesn't get rid of the weirdness of making out on a gravestone, especially the weirdness of making out on a gravestone that belongs to a dead friend, dead lover, and in Emma's case, a dead rival and former enemy. Number 9. She-Hulk and Iron Man. She-Hulk and Iron Man ending up together doesn't sound so weird on paper. Both are generally known for being avid daters in the Marvel Universe and having a long list of partners and one-night stands. And ex-partners. They got long lists. However, in this case, it did somehow feel kind of weird. Maybe it had to do with the fact that it was on the down low and they weren't so much dating as just hooking up. Or maybe it was the fact that they were just hooking up and Tony was also She-Hulk's boss at the time. Either way, this is a relationship that I could see working out, but that in actuality turned out to be pretty weird in the comics. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us that you love us by heading on over to our newer channel, Most Amazing Top 10 Anime, and giving it a subscribe. We're going to be doing lots of cool anime content on there, and we want you to watch it. Number 8. Black Canary and Batman. Probably one of the weirdest dates of all time was one that happened between Black Canary and Batman. If you can even call it a date. It wasn't really a date, but we're going to call it a date for the sake of this list that I can tell you about it. In a former main continuity, these two were actually almost together for a very brief moment in time when Black Canary found herself caught in a weird love triangle stuck between Batman and Green Arrow. However, in the Earth 31 All-Star reality, these two actually hook up after beating up some criminals together. Nothing says romance like a Molotov cocktail and setting people on fire. Number 7. Rogue and Magneto. Rogue and Magneto might seem like an awkward pairing, but you know, they actually kind of work okay together. In fact, they work so well together that in the Age of Apocalypse reality, they end up married and even have a child together. Rogue and Magneto in the main continuity developed a close connection during their adventure on the Savage Lands, but it was cut short when their time together ended. Magneto was forced to choose between the life that he'd known and Rogue, but he felt as though it would not actually be possible for them to be together. He felt like there was too many conflicting things, so he decided to, you know, not be with Rogue. Although unspecified really in the comics, there is likely a huge age difference there, but Magneto is one of the few people who can touch Rogue in the comics, thanks to his very small magnetic force field which exists all around and very close to his body. When I say small, I mean it's not like force field out here, it's like very tight to his body. So he can seemingly touch people, but not really because he's got the force field. Comics. It's a real explanation. Number 6. Batman and Cheetah. Batman and Cheetah got together almost in the DC animated universe. They didn't so much get together and go on a date as kind of just flirt with one another though, while Batman was tied up, and allude to the potential chemistry that could be between them if they did choose to date each other. Admittedly, Batman was likely just flirting with Cheetah to manipulate the villain and get himself free, as he was, you know, kind of kidnapped and held at the time. But regardless, it did seem like sparks could fly between these two, even if Batman didn't need to use his sense of compassion and charm to get free. Part of that may actually have been genuine too. And the two did share a kiss while Batman was in captivity. Although, I don't know, captivity kisses, I don't know if they count. did look consensual though, so I think it was a willing kiss. Number 5. Rogue and Sentry. Rogue and the Sentry are a couple who never dated on panel. Rather, we found out during the Sentry's funeral that these two were even an item, which is already kinda awkward. Why is the rest of it awkward? Well, 1, because Rogue burst into tears over their relationship and the death of Robert Reynolds at said gathering and said funeral, but 2, also because I'm pretty sure Bob would have been married when he got together with Rogue. I might be wrong with this one, but I'm pretty sure he would have been, as far as I know. Sentry is famously married to Lindy Lee, so either this happened while the two were on a break, before they were married, or Robert just straight up cheated on Lindy with Anna Marie. Admittedly, the two got together because he was one of the few people who could apparently touch Rogue, who at the time struggled to resist harming people with her touch, as her powers were basically uncontrollable at that time. Robert, like Magneto, was one of the few people Rogue could safely touch, so kinda does make sense that they'd be together. However, I still have questions about, was the Sentry married at that time, or how does that work? Is that okay? Did Lindy know? Questions. Number 4. Green Lantern and Star Sapphire. Usually when you think of Star Sapphire and Green Lantern together, you're thinking of Carol Ferris and Hal Jordan. But did you know that Carol also dated Green Lantern Kyle Rayner? Their relationship was not only random, but also pretty painful for Hal, who has been known as the long-running off and on again partner of Star Sapphire, Carol Ferris. In fact, the two had an affection for each other back when she was his boss, before they were ever in a cosmic setting. Kyle and Carol didn't last as a couple for too long, probably because the whole idea of them dating felt really weird and random to most fans, and maybe even to them in canon, because it is weird. Number 3. Wolverine and Jean Grey. Jeannie and Wolverine have had a few awkward moments together in the main continuity, and when I say a few, I mean I feel like there's a long list of awkwardness. Like the time that Jean supposedly cheated on Slim with Logan, or the time when Wolverine helped Jean to rip her dress while attempting an escape and he ripped it a little too well and a little too enthusiastically. But one of the most awkward date-related moments for me comes from the end of the world, which they both found themselves at together. This happens in a what if about Avengers vs. X-Men. In the end, not only do all of the heroes who are fighting against one another die, but also all of humanity as well. Jean Grey's Phoenix, however, returns to save Wolverine so that they can return to Earth once it is healed to start again, which seems to imply that they are getting ready to bring new life to the planet, of which they are currently the only two people existing on, as the ghosts of the fallen heroes look on in the background, or are, there in memory. The weird thing is that Phoenix is likely powerful enough to have just, brought them all back if she wanted. But instead, she chooses to use her power to simply let everyone die and set the scene for like kind of an Adam and Eve style date with Logan. An interesting choice, Jean. Number 2. Old Batman and Ra's al Ghul? This one comes to us from Batman Beyond, where we see an old man Bruce Wayne as Terry McGinnis, the new future Batman's mentor. Old Bruce at one point reconnects with an old flame, who has still kept her youth, Talia al Ghul. The problem? It isn't really Talia, but Ra's, disguised within Talia's body, who is hoping to poach Batman's bod for his own and use the Lazarus Pits to basically make Bruce's form young again. The two share a nostalgic and somewhat romantic evening before this is revealed though, and even at one point share a kiss, which I'm sure when Bruce finds out later that it's actually Ra's, he's like, oh boy. I did not want to kiss Ra's al Ghul, and yet here we are. I mean, at least Ra's was in Talia's body. No, I think that makes it worse. Number 1. Wolverine and Mary Jane. One of the most awkward dates to rule them all. This one likely happened off-panel, as we never really saw it. It involved Wolverine and Mary Jane getting together while Wolverine was actually in Peter Parker's body. So, once again, weird body swap date things. That's right, we are talking about the Ultimate Comics in this case. It was awkward because Peter only really found out about it later, and probably one of the weirdest and maybe worst ways that you could. That is, he found out that while Wolverine was in his body, he somehow found some time to put the moves on MJ, who basically asked Peter later, once he was safely back in his body, to wait till they were older before he tried to do what he attempted earlier that morning. Which obviously he's like, I wasn't me that morning. Oh my goodness. So yeah. Yikes. What dates do you think are the most awkward? What makes them awkward? Which superheroes do you think should have worked together as a couple, but in actuality didn't? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host, Amanda McKnight. I will see you next time, but until then, you stay nerdy, YouTube.